You are listening to the Knightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Knightline is brought to you by the Dever team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Knight Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 260, believe it or not. 260. Joining me as always,
Roger Phipps, and on this week's show, Facilities Bonanza, creeping closer to the season, roster review, Knightline recruiting updates, NCAA noteworthy news, the Tijuana Flats hot take of the week, and news and notes.
Alrighty. Well, speaking of all that stuff, we also have a plethora of Ask Knightline questions. Thank you very much for each and every one of you. So let's just jump right in and get to those. Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today. All right, first up for the Ask Knightline questions this week, Tony C. I think he has 3 questions, maybe 2. He broke them down, though. I think it's 3.
7. He has 7 questions.
Which is fine. I don't care, personally. You can ask as many questions as you want as long as we have questions. So anyway, Tony C., for all the praise Danny White had, he sure did drop the ball on scheduling even before we became national champs. What are your thoughts? Could DW have done a better job scheduling? Also, how bad of shape are we in the openings on the schedule? Short period of time, Terry Mahajer is scheduled 3. So I've said all along that I thought that this was the one area that Danny White really, really dropped the ball on. He totally dropped the ball because he put us in a bad spot. Now, I was with him 100% as well, though, on the whole thing of scheduling the 1-for-1s only and not taking 2-for-1s. Well, that backfired, and it hurt us. So, you know, I'm glad that Terry Mahajer, Timo, we like to call him, is doing a good job so far. He got, this deal done with Florida. He got a deal done with somebody else. I don't even remember. Maryland, that's right. Yeah, it's not exciting. But, and then, there's another one in there as well that he got taken care of, I think, so, and then there's supposedly one more that we haven't heard anything about yet. So I'm good with what Terry Mahajer is doing. Danny White definitely, though, in my opinion, dropped the ball on scheduling. Roger?
Well, drop the ball is tough because he was trying to position us well in a way that held our brand up high, right? So from the philosophy standpoint, I did always and continue to agree, and I've actually argued it on here and I've argued it on the radio show that I think that was the correct scheduling philosophy. Unfortunately, we don't have as much control or equity in the scheduling. I'm still not a huge fan of the 2-for-1 with Florida. I think schools like doing home and homes with schools like Maryland, I think are solid, right? So They're winnable games. They're Big Ten schools. They should, if we're doing well, make it on large TV audiences. So I think from that perspective, I think it's a good thing. As far as what Timo or Terry Mohajer or whatever you want to say, how he's doing, again, he got the Florida deal done. And no matter how you feel about it, we're playing Florida 3 times. And he got the Maryland deal done. We need games. And the thing that really scares me, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, is this new conference conflagration that they're coming in and building a scheduling alliance. So, there's already a small amount of games given how many games are out there for P5 schools and how long in advance that they schedule them. There may be even less. So we have to grab whatever we can while we can, and kudos to Timo for grabbing what he can.
Well, yeah, and I think that by the time that the scheduling alliance thing comes together with the Big 12, the Big 10, and the Pac-12 or whatever it is, at some point we will probably, I would think, by the time that really comes together, we may be more of a part of one of those than we may think. Just personal opinion on that.
Dun, dun, dun.
So,
as the world turns.
Yeah, so I think that's coming at some point. I really do. Especially with the vacancies in the Big 12. And, I know that Mike Oresco, Milkman, is doing stuff behind the scenes. And I think by the time all that gets announced...
behind the scenes, he got called out for it.
Well... And he should. I mean, whatever. Good for him. I mean, finally, he's made some news at least. So, all right. Next question. At some point, this is from Tony as well. At some point, is it worth keep talking on taking more transfers than saving scholarship for high school recruits? For me, I think there's like 5 questions in here. Anyway. For me, as far as the transfers goes, I'm more than happy to take the transfers. Yes, it kind of does interfere, and this is kind of a newer thing with all these kids transferring around. But transfer players, for the most part, have game experience, and you're getting an experienced player instead of a brand new player. Are they going to be here as long? Probably not. But you're getting the game experience. That's what I think is valuable as far as taking transfers. You've got to take high school kids as well to keep your roster, going. So they're going to have to find a meeting point. That's, let's take this many kids as transfers. Let's take this many kids as incoming freshmen. So it has to be a fine line, and I don't know if they've figured that out yet. Roger?
Yeah, I don't think they've figured it out. I mean, nobody really has. This is, to your point, relatively new. As far as the ability for transfers to move around and be immediately eligible and all of those other fun things. As to philosophy, whether I think we should, convert where we're bringing in the vast majority as transfer players, I'm not sold on that. I still think, basically what you're betting on is you're saying, okay, some of these schools, these bigger schools, the Alabamas of the world, et cetera, they have 2 deeps, 3 deeps of NFL players. And we're betting on some of them to be able to fall out and come into our open arms, right? That's one strategy, but you're not getting the top of that group that you have. The other strategy is to keep building your high school recruiting profile. And if you aren't taking as many high school players, you're not going to have as good a relationships, and you're going to hurt yourself in the long term. Again, transfers and philosophies change with the coaches and their ability to attract talent. We have Gus Malzahn, who has the ability to clearly attract Auburn players and players from around the country based on his brand name. But what if he leaves? What happens then? Tulsa is... I would rather have have Gus build a strong recruiting foundation with the high school coaches and relationships with the school and brand identity and have that be able to carry on to the next coaching staff versus the other way around. And that's just my thought on it.
Yeah, I don't think Gus is going anywhere, though, personally. So I don't think we're going to have to worry about that. I think that he's here for the long haul. If anybody would be here for the long haul, it's going to be him. He does. Tony C did list. He kind of, I don't know. He kind of wrote this weird. He wrote it as a different question, but it was another part of this. He said, for example, we got this Kentucky quarterback that transferred recently, but we've already got Parker Navarro, Mikey Keene, and upcoming high school freshman Castellino in the wings. The thing is, the freshmen especially are going to have to step up their game. And I think that this breeds competition more than anything else. So you're getting transfers that you kind of know what you're getting with them, but then you're getting these high school kids that you saw them play in high school, but that's a completely different level of football. Like high school compared to college, the speed is much different. NFL compared to college, the speed is much different. So, I don't know about this Kentucky quarterback kid because I don't know too much about him. I know he's transferred a couple times. This would be, I think, his second transfer. He was at Auburn at one point and left and went to Kentucky and then is back with Gus. So I don't know what that situation is. I don't know if Gus is just bringing him in to help teach maybe next year the new guys. I don't know what the situation is. So, but, Parker Navarro and Mikey Keene have to see, transfers coming in front of them. I think that, like I said before, it breeds competition. So, yeah. So, okay.
Well, okay. So, I did do, of course, as part of my recruiting spotlight, I did one bullet here on Joey Gatewood. Now, a couple things to understand about Joey Gatewood. He was sharing time in high school with another very highly rated quarterback. This kid is 6'4", 226 pounds. He was a 4-star, and coming out of high school, he was ranked the number 3 QB in 2018. If you believe the stories, there was some controversy with the boosters as to who they wanted to play quarterback at Auburn. We all know that they're super aggressive. The kid that ended up starting is a legacy kid, and he moved on to Kentucky. I don't know what happened at Kentucky. He was only there for 1 year. I don't know if they...
So how many years does this guy have left?
Well, he was a 2018 recruit, so he would have played for 2019, 2020.
2020 didn't count.
Correct. And he did one transfer. So I'm guessing he probably has at least 3 years to play.
Okay. Well, Mikey Keene and Parker Navarro need to step it up then, because you may have your next quarterback right there. And the guy is a prototypical size quarterback. NFL.
Well, not only that,
size.
but he also played tight end very well in high school as well. Kid's got wheels. He can catch. He's got a good catch radius on him.
Is he a pro-style quarterback, or is he a dual threat? Being that
dual
big?
threat. He's got
really
wheels.
That big,
yeah.
In a dual threat. Okay, interesting. I can't wait to see this guy. We haven't had a big quarterback since Blake Bortles. So
yeah. And that might be what old Gus is looking at, because he's got some smaller guys and he's planning, and we all know he likes running quarterbacks. So if, Mikey Keene's not that big.
I don't know if Gus has ever had a small quarterback before, like our guys.
I don't either. I know he had one at Tulsa back when he was at Tulsa, but I don't know at Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really look at him being at Tulsa, when I look at Gus Malzahn, I look at more of the last 10 or 12 years or whatever it was at Auburn. And I don't think that he had a small quarterback at Auburn at all, because he went from Cam Newton obviously wasn't a small guy.
Stidham wasn't small.
Stidham wasn't a small guy, and I don't know about this last one because I was really not paying attention at all. Those are the only two that I've really ever paid attention to.
He's 6'3". I can't remember his name, but he's 6'3". Okay. The guy, the one that the last one before he left.
Well, I mean, you can argue forever about the size of quarterbacks and, all that stuff. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel does a damn good job being as small as he is compared to the prototypical NFL quarterback, but it does make a little bit of a difference, I think, having a bigger guy
look,
back
if
there.
you're taking licks at 6 foot at 180 pounds or 185 pounds, whatever he's listed at, versus a guy who's 6'4", 220 pounds, you'd like him to be 230. But if you have guys, these big defenders, I mean, look, the American is not Conference USA teams anymore. We don't have these small defensive lines. If you look at Tulsa or Cincinnati or anybody that we play, they're all 310 plus.
Yeah.
And, wasn't that way in Conference USA.
No.
I mean, look at Bruce Miller and how successful he was as a defensive lineman.
Right.
And, now you're talking about 310, 320 pounders, and they're hitting you.
Yeah.
And if you got a running quarterback, that wears on you over the course of a season. So there is something to be said for size. And I know, especially in the SEC, those guys are monsters. I mean, you're talking defensive lines averaging 330. Those are big boys.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw in Knight RN 95's question as well, because it fits right in here. I'm going to skip a couple. He says, how does Joey Gatewood fit in with our current group of quarterbacks? And, we've kind of said a little bit about that already. I don't know why he's bringing this guy in. I mean, I don't know the story behind it. There has to be some kind of story behind it. Because
he obviously has history there with him. He's a highly rated quarterback that's out there. You got Henshaw, who was his offensive coordinator at Kentucky. That's an analyst now.
I forgot about that. I totally forgot about Darren Henshaw coming back. So yeah, that's a connection right there. That's
every once in a while I come up with a good one.
Yeah. No, I totally forgot about that. I forgot about the connection between him and Kentucky. I see now. I get it. Okay, I get it. And like I said, he may be coming here to help, teach, because he knows Malzahn's system as well. So,
I mean, me personally, I'm looking at it this way. If he's got 3 years, right? We a lot of us and everything I've been reading, Dylan's looking to, go pro after this year. And if he has a great season, there's nothing stopping him from doing that.
Yeah.
So now you've got Mikey Keene. You've got basically 3 quarterbacks, including Thomas Castellanos, who's the new one that will be coming in next year. If you have the chance to get the number 3 recruited quarterback in any class, a legitimate 4-star with size in your quarterback room, you do it, especially if he's got 3 years worth of eligibility.
Immediately, the weak link of all those guys stands out to me as Parker Navarro, personally. Just because I've seen Mikey Keene throw the ball, I've seen Parker Navarro throw the ball. Mikey Keene is a step up from Parker Navarro for sure. And I bet that this guy is a step up as well. So, don't be surprised.
He threw 61.5% in high school.
Well,
that
was
his
in high
completion
school,
percentage.
But what we've seen him do in college so far, he's been here a year. He got in a couple times last year. We've seen him in spring game.
No. I'm sorry. I think you missed. I didn't explain that properly. That was Gatewood's numbers.
Oh, okay. School. I thought you were talking about Parker Navarro because I was talking.
No, they were
Parker.
higher.
Yeah. So I just feel like if anybody's going to go, I think the first one. And here's the deal: we have that's 6 quarterbacks on our roster right now. That's 6. So
2 of them though will probably be gone next year, and one's holding the clipboard.
Right. So still, I think that you're going to see one of these guys transfer out, and I bet you it's Parker Navarro, personally, unless Mikey Keene sees something better and maybe this guy steps in. I'm not sure. So if I was looking at it right now, which I kind of am, I would think that Parker Navarro would be kind of in last place in front of all those guys. So just personally on a talent level, I haven't seen this Joey Gatewood guy yet, but size and physical stature, I think would probably put him up a little bit higher as well. So, okay. On to the next one. Selena, our friend UCF Selena. Haven't heard from her in a while. Thank you. Thank you, Tony C. and Night RN95, by the way. Appreciate those questions. So Selena asks, any news on the UCF pregame concert series? If you had a choice, who would you want to see play a concert before a game? Also, what's your personal favorite tailgating tradition? So she asked 3 questions in that one question as well.
Well, see, we've been out for a while. We didn't have, and you kept forgetting
awesome
to post it.
I
This
know.
is all this pent up energy.
Yeah, got a lot going on. So I'm glad that I posted this, and we're actually. I said that we were going to do it on Sunday. We had some technical issues, so this is Monday. So you're going to hear this tomorrow morning, though. So you'll hear this on Tuesday. It says in that 2021 UCF football A to Z guide thing that they put out last week that you can find on UCFKnights.com. It says this as far as the IOA Plaza list. The Tailgate Concert Series, IOA Plaza Game Festivities, March to Victory, and Night Walk are back this season. Each game will feature different attractions, entertainment, and a concert for you and your family to enjoy. They have not announced anything as far as concerts go that I know of, maybe unless they did it today. So it sounds like they're going to do it. It was a Danny White thing. We weren't sure if that was going to continue, but it sounds like unless they typed this up last year and kind of put it in now, I don't know. But it sounds like they're going to do it. So I kind of enjoyed those. I don't make it over to all of them, but I've enjoyed a couple of the concerts that they had. Luke Combs, I mean, that was huge to have Luke Combs. And then that other country girl, Casey Ballerini, was pretty cool too. So,
and I'm going to date myself, but Smash Mouth, I mean, not the greatest band ever, but still one to have a good time.
Yeah, not a fan. So that one did not excite me whatsoever. The country things do a little bit more for some reason for me for tailgating. I just think that's especially Luke Combs. I mean,
you went all country on the word tailgating. You said tailgating.
I'm from Kansas,
pretty funny.
so I am from Kansas. So there's a lot of country where I'm from. We had real tailgates, by the way. We used to have burn big piles of brush and stuff, and literally everybody would park their trucks in a circle around the tailgates, and everybody would turn on their lights, and it was awesome.
FIU does that.
Well, yeah, they also that's another,
they burn effigies of nitro.
Yeah,
they all gather around. It's like some sort of cult.
That's their satanic stuff that they do down there. Whatever. Anyway, if I had a choice, who would you like to see play a concert before a game? I would love to see Luke Combs come back because he's one of my favorites. That dude is his music is just party. It's all about, except for his love songs, which he does really well as well. But the party songs that he does, the beer drinking songs, I don't think that you could get a better deal. I don't think we're probably going to get him now because he's way bigger than he was before when he played here, even though he had the number 1 song at the time. I don't know. I mean, that's who I guess I would definitely be there if he played again. No question. Favorite tailgate tradition. I'm going to let you go through these questions as well, Roger. Tailgate tradition. I think just drinking and having a good time. Getting a good buzz before you go into the stadium, There's a lot of times actually where I don't remember the first quarter. I've said this a million times on this show. I'm I didn't really see the first quarter just because I've got such a buzz going from the tailgate. I just love hanging out with my friends and eating good food, drinking a bunch of alcohol, and going to the games. I missed it so much from last year, and I cannot wait. We're only a few days away. and we're already planning. It's been planned for a long time, really. But the tailgate is going to be kicking. By the way, if y'all want to come to the softball lot and find us, there'll be a bus and an RV, a black school bus painted all UCF, and a RV camper sitting right next to it. That is our spot. Reach out to me on Twitter or Facebook Messenger, Twitter Messenger, or whatever if you have a hard time finding us. But please stop by and say hello. I would really love to meet some of you that I haven't, and even see the ones that I have again. So please stop by in the softball lot. Go ahead. Roger, because I kind of went through all those questions.
I think I forgot the question. No, just kidding. So as far as I'd like...
Yeah, if you had a choice, who would you like to see?
Yeah. So I'm going to go... Because I do like a little country, but I'm not all country. And this isn't really
think
country.
About the budget as well. Think about the UCF budget to get
They said who would I want to see, not what they cost.
Okay. All right.
If we were doing that, if I was going to go country, and I know this is going to sound total sellout, but I like him, Kane Brown. Really enjoy his music.
Yeah.
And then if I were going to go rapper, it would be DaBaby, and favorite song, it would be CJ Whoopty. But, I know Andrew probably hasn't even heard that one. But those are my favorites. As far as favorite tailgate tradition.
You're saying that I don't listen to any of that kind of stuff?
Well, I don't know.
You're absolutely wrong. Yeah, I mean, I listen to all kinds of stuff. But I just...
So you listen to DaBaby?
Yeah.
All right. I have. There you go, folks. You've learned something new about Andrew.
I got to figure out what I haven't. I have an album in my. I have Apple Music, and I have probably, I don't even know, thousands and thousands of albums that I've downloaded in there. Let me see what's in my library. I know. Go ahead.
260 episodes, and we finally heard something new from Andrew.
I'm a musician, man. I listen to all kinds of stuff. Y'all would be shocked at what's in. In fact, my current favorite song, you'll really be shocked by, and I don't really know if I want to say. But I'm a musician.
Please don't say it's Yanni.
No. I listen to all kinds of stuff. And lately, I had not heard this song. I think it's older now. Well, it came out this year. May 7th it came out. The Pink song with her daughter, Cover Me in Sunshine.
It'll get, yeah.
That song is probably one of the most melodic, awesome freaking songs as a songwriter that is out there right now. It's a great song. So that's one of the newest things that I've downloaded. I've always liked her. I've always liked Pink. Just because, it's something different. I really love female voices. And she's a little bit rock and roll, a little bit pop. She mixes it really well, and I love her stuff, and that song is incredible, absolutely incredible.
That is my daughter's favorite song right now, so you have something in common with her.
I'm sure it's a lot of little girls' freaking favorite song, but
I know,
it's one of my favorites too.
But it is genuinely her favorite song. That's why I know it, because
great song. I mean, it's hooky. I literally I wake up a lot of times with music in my head, with just a melody or whatever, and that song pops into my head a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's so melodic and it's so hooky that it's one of the songs that pops into my head a lot. By the way, speaking of rap music, have you heard Brandon Alexander's record? Brandon Alexander, former UCF Knight safety.
I have not.
And now a field corner for the Blue Bombers, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Field corner is an extra player that is on the field because they have an extra player on each side because the field is so big, 12 men instead of 11. And it is called Two-Sided. It's an EP, and it's just under BA period in iTunes. Apple Music or whatever, BA period, capital B, lowercase a period. and he put it out August 5th. It's not bad. It's rap for sure. It's not clean, so if you don't want to play that kind of stuff around your kids, but it's a UCF night, and I think it's pretty cool. So,
all right.
Go ahead with the last one though. Your favorite tailgate tradition.
My favorite tailgate tradition is twofold. One is where I am being a typical, I guess I'm considered middle-aged now, college football fan, and that's walking around with a fifth of Fireball that's chilled. But my second part of that is, playing football with my son. It's something that we do before every game. I bought season tickets for him, and this year my daughter will be joining, which is super exciting. But just throwing the football around with him before a game, after we've had fun, seen friends, I tailgate with Andrew and Travis and a bunch of other people, but just throwing the football with him before games is something for me.
All right. Well, I looked in my library, and I do have some DaBaby, by the way. That Rockstar song is awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That song, I mean, I know it's really poppy and catchy and blah, 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 and that's probably not what I've heard the rest of the album or whatever as well. I've definitely heard that, but that song is awesome.
I will tell you this. If I were, how they ask athletes what their pregame songs are, if mine right now, if I were getting ready for a game, what I'd have blasting in my eardrums would definitely be Whoop Deep by CJ. I just love that song. That hook is phenomenal.
Okay, cool. All right. Cindy J. Killigan, I think. I don't know. I'm probably saying that wrong. I apologize. Cindy J. I think it's Gotten, maybe? I don't know. I can't really see.
We don't do great names.
Yeah,
we don't do great with names around here,
either,
folks. So
you know who you are. She asks, is Gus ready for Night Nation? I love this question. I hope Gus is ready. I think Gus has seen probably some videos and just has seen the response on social media and stuff to him. I don't know if he's. I would hope that he's ready, but I don't know until he feels it, until he walks out there, for the first game Thursday night in front of Night Nation and a packed bounce house. I think it's going to be packed. I don't think
Boise's supposed to be bringing 2,500 or so of their fans.
Nah, that's fine. In the little corner over there, it's perfect. We're going to have a lot more than 2,500.
No, I know, but generally speaking, there's not very many schools that we bring. BYU would maybe be the exception where they actually take up most of the allotted tickets for visitors.
Yeah. Probably the biggest amount of visitors that I've seen, that I remember just being everywhere, not just in their section, was that game years ago against South Carolina. A lot of people came down for that, and I had them sitting behind me, in front of me, in donor section, and I wasn't really happy about that. Didn't get into any fights or anything, but I probably did tell somebody to shut up at some point, doing their stupid little thing. But anyway, yeah. So I think Gus is he probably thinks he's ready, but I think that there will be a pretty good ovation for him when he runs out, as well as the team. I think a lot of people are behind him, and I think that a lot of people are excited to have him here. So I think that he's gonna, once he really, he's seen the videos of the stadium bouncing and the locker room doors, rattling and all that stuff. But until you experience that, I don't think you can be ready. So he's as ready as he can be right now until he really feels the energy. And I can't wait to hear what he has to say about it after.
Well, I can tell you this. He knows Night Nation is loud and proud after his Auburn team was defeated in the Peach Bowl a few years ago, and half of that stadium was definitely full of UCF fans. So I think he knows and he has an idea. Most colleges and most schools, especially traditional schools, have older fan bases that aren't as rowdy as ours. So to your point, when you start hearing Zombie Nation and the doors shake, I think the first time the doors shake when everybody's in the bounce house and jumping up and down, I think it's going to be an eye-opening experience. Do I think he's ready for it? Yeah. Do I think he's going to be surprised how visceral it is? Yeah. Do I think if we are as vocal as we can be, like we were in the Cincinnati game, we're rowdy, we're loud, and if we're winning, I think he's going to be very pleasantly surprised.
Awesome. All right. UCF Chad, at Chad UCF. Those are backwards. I'd like to hear about how y'all think about the quarterbacks behind DG would perform if they had to go in. A lot of quarterback questions. And then Brian W. Peterson, I actually answered his question earlier when I was talking about which of our quarterbacks is most likely to transfer. And which one would you absolutely hate to lose? So I apologize. I didn't get to your question yet, and I just saw it now, and we already kind of talked about it, but we'll revisit that. Anyway, I'd like to hear UCF Chad. I'd like to hear how y'all think the quarterbacks behind DG would perform if they had to go in. That's a big question now, isn't it? Quadri Jones, not really a good job in the spring game. So from what I understand, it sounds like, from what I've heard, it's not Quadri that will probably be the second quarterback. It sounds like, from what I've heard from people that have been out there and other things, that Mikey Keene is probably the guy. So I think Mikey Keene could do it. He has a heck of an arm. He's a very accurate passer. It'll be a little bit different because he's never played college football except scrimmages. So we need to see one of those backups, though. I want to see one of those backups more this year than we did last year. This was a thing that a lot of people complained about. Now, it's a little bit of a different situation because I said that I didn't want the backups going in as much last year. Dylan Gabriel is still, as a sophomore, needed to get those reps. I don't think he needs as many of those reps anymore. So I'm fine with them taking him out a little bit earlier, not needing to pad the stats as much. Take him out, get our new guys in there, our younger guys, because if Dylan leaves after this year, we're going to have somebody that's going to have some game experience underneath them. And then as well, that's again back to Night RN 95's question: how does Joey Gatewood, fit in there? He's got experience, so I think it's going to be Mikey Keene as the second quarterback, and I hope that he doesn't have to go in except garbage time. But I want him to go in garbage time. Roger.
Okay, so I'm not going to add too much to this conversation. I do think Mikey Keene is our second best option of the group that we have. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in Quadri. He's never shown me anything that, jumps out at me and says, hey, this guy, your second string quarterback should be one that could potentially be your number one. I never saw Quadri as potentially being a number one. So for me, I'm definitely going to go Mikey Keene. I kind of want to echo the observations on Parker Navarro. And so for me, for this year, it would be Mikey Keene. I hope he gets some experience, but only if it's blowouts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, true. Okay. And then back to Brian W. Peterson's question. I'm sorry. Sometimes I don't look at these questions all the way through, and I did not see that his had to deal with the other guys. Which of the quarterbacks is most likely to transfer, going to happen eventually, and which one would you absolutely hate to lose? I'm going to go back to Parker Navarro as being the guy that I think would probably transfer and probably be the most likely one to transfer, unless for some reason we see him as the number 2. I just don't think that we're going to. He probably will have a great opportunity to play someplace else, but I think that Mikey Keene is just a lot better than him. And then hate to lose, it would be Mikey Keene, because if Mikey Keene decides, hey, I can start someplace if they put this Joey Gatewood guy in, and Mikey Keene needs to get some game time underneath him, then it goes to that. I mean, we'd hate to lose him. I think this guy is a great football player. I just, we obviously haven't seen him a lot, but if you watch his high school tape, man, I mean, what a player this kid is. He reminds me of DG, KZ. I mean, he's that type of guy. So, and he's got that type of arm. So, yeah, that would be the one that I would hate to lose. I think that he's very valuable to us.
Okay, I'm with you. Definitely Parker Navarro as the one most likely to transfer, and definitely Mikey Keene, the one that I would hate to lose. You've got Thomas Castellano coming in. You got Gatewood. We have another quarterback for 2023 that we're recruiting pretty heavily that's supposed to be a lean for us as well. So, who knows? I mean, we'll know hopefully more next year after Dylan takes us to a undefeated season and, a New Year's Day bowl and moves on to the NFL and makes it at least a second-round draft pick. So,
if he does. I mean, we don't even know any of that yet. So
no, I'm saying I hope he does. That means we have a very, very successful season.
Right.
And, hopefully that means we'll have some competition at QB. And I do think we have some talent there. Castellanos is really good. We did, some background on him. I really enjoy watching his film. I think Mikey Keene is a great option. Gatewood, again, haven't seen him play in college, but he was the top 3 quarterback in the entire country in 2018. So you got a good option there. And then you've got this 2023 kid who's also highly rated. So yeah. I think we're going to have some options.
Yep. All right. Thank you all for your questions. Really appreciate it. Always been one of my favorite segments. I appreciate everybody with your questions for sure. So, all right, we're going to move on. Let's take a break real quick, and we'll be right back, and we'll get into the rest of it.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com. Alrighty, welcome back. There was some big news this week about Terry Mahajer's plans for the UCF facilities and the stadium. Brought out some actual, printed graphics and what do they call them? I can't remember the name of what.
Oh, goodness. Now you're making me forget because I just had it on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, like a rendering. Renderings,
yeah, that's it.
That was it. So, yeah, they brought out rendering. It's been a long day. So he brought out renderings during a shareholders meeting, and then the board of trustees meeting as well to talk about all that stuff. And if you haven't seen them, you can go to Knightline, or no, not Knightline Sports, but whatever the freaking website is. Man, UCFKnights.com. You can see those there too.
I'm just going to let you keep rolling. I think this is entertaining for everybody.
Well, yeah, I've had a migraine all day, actually. I didn't go to work today. So I've had a migraine for like the whole weekend. So my brain is not on 100% right now. But the meds probably don't help with that either. Anyway, so these renderings, I think I talked about them last week on the show. Didn't I? Was it last week or the last Knightline episode? I was saying I had seen them. Well, those ones that everybody saw are the ones that I saw before. So I'd seen those a month and a half or 2 months ago. But those are them, and now everybody's seen them. They're out there. So it's pretty exciting, personally. I mean, the thing that they're adding on to the south end of the stadium, that's cool. I mean, it makes our stadium really look like more of a college stadium or maybe even a pro stadium. Not as big, obviously, but it really adds like architectural stuff to it that we haven't seen. You know, we see a lot of steel girders and aluminum freaking stands. Everybody, opposing teams like to make fun of our little, glorified high school stadium. A lot of them call it. But this adds a lot to it. And, adds more premium seating, blah, blah, blah. They've also got the Lazy River Recovery Cove coming in there.
They rebranded it
in a different spot.
Recovery River,
okay. Anyway, it's in a different spot in between the practice fields and the indoor practice facility and the Wayne Dench building over there. So a little bit closer to their locker rooms and all that stuff. Here's what Terry Mahajer said about his concept and his idea of how this was all going to go together.
The football campus is something that will be encapsulated inside the Kenneth G. Dixon Athletics Village, but that's just part of the vision of the overall facility plan. The master plan will include most all of our sports, including the venue, track and field, soccer. So you might have seen some aerials of the images where the track was no longer around the soccer field. That's because we're looking to possibly relocate the track somewhere else so we can create this really cool soccer environment. And I truly believe that we have a lot of upside in soccer and we can be a power. And we're emerging that direction already, and I truly believe that we have a chance to win national championships, multiple national championships in men's and women's soccer. So I didn't put all those images out just because right now where we are in the national landscape of conference alignment and the talk of football, I thought we would just focus on football, let our fans see that, let them enjoy that as opposed to getting too wide with the message that we're trying to create. But rest assured, we are thinking of everyone in this process, meaning all of our sports.
All right, well, that's a little bit different because all the stuff is centered around football that's been put out, but then he said, track and the venue and everything else. So, and we've talked about this, what improvements needed to be made the most before on shows, I know. So, we know that the baseball stadium needs a new scoreboard, like all kinds of stuff. So the softball stadium could be updated a little bit. There's all kinds of stuff that can be done, but, the football village or the athletics village is going to get a major upgrade with all this stuff. Roger?
Yeah, $50 million. The total project is estimated to be at $130 million, with $50 million of it going to football. I thought it was very, very telling that Terry was talking about the fact that he held back some of the other upgrades to keep the focus on football. We heard recently from Dennis Dodd that since Terry's been here, he's put together a deck for other conferences, and he mentioned conference realignment. So, guys, if you were wondering if we're being proactive or thinking about this, there's your answer right there. You mentioned Recovery River earlier. Recovery River, one of the modifications that they did was they, as you mentioned, moved it. So your E6 lots are maintained. In addition, they're adding... Kind of.
Because they're moving a practice field onto the other side. So
correct.
It cuts a football field out of those lots.
And then the other part that it's doing too is it's adding cold pools within Recovery River. So in other words, the football players, instead of sitting in trash cans with ice in them and ice water, they'll be able to actually sit in those recovery pools and very similar to our friends in Gainesville who have those built in as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's very common, though. I mean, I've heard the trash cans be mentioned or the horse troughs or whatever a couple of times. It's extremely common to do it that way until, they're starting to build these facilities that have other stuff. Built in. What looks like a hot tub is a cold tub and all that stuff. So it's nice. I mean, pro facilities, have stuff like that. But Terry Mohajir, has a history of kind of doing this stuff. If you look at the facilities at Arkansas State where he came from, he did a major facelift on their stuff, and it's really nice, especially like locker rooms and everything else. So this is not the first time he's done something like this. He has friends that are in the architecture business and everything else. So this, is not new to him at all. Also, in these renderings, which I've found kind of interesting, on the sides of the scoreboard will be a third deck on each side of the big scoreboard on the north end zone, as well as the stuff happening in the south end zone. Let's hear what he had to say about that, and this is kind of talking about the capacity that it would add.
Well, based on our very preliminary review, we were basically going to take the south end zone upper deck. It doesn't affect the students at all. And we would repurpose some of those seats to loge boxes. Loge boxes, it gives us another premium product to use, which we have, I've been told that we need more. Plus, it gives us an opportunity to help fund this project. The premium products not only create a great atmosphere, but it helps fund the project. I've also had discussions with the students. My first week on the job here, I had this discussion with Sabrina and Meg about their desire to have more seating for the student body. And so we created those two wings up on the north side that also has standing room only, kind of like I said yesterday with the Orlando City areas that end zone they have. They love that idea. They wanted that. So the seating capacity, we actually, with those wings and repurposing the upper deck of the south end zone, we actually gain about 14 to 1,500 seats. Preliminary was what I know now, without going into a deep dive.
Alrighty, so a couple more seats up there, taking some away in the south and adding them back to the north, basically. So hope that they finish that third deck all the way around. I would love to see that at some point, and I'm sure that they will. But it has some little standing room only things, which you mentioned there, that are at the bottom, and supposedly they're going to put like concessions up there and stuff like that. So that could be cool. One of my favorite places to stand actually is on the cabana side at the very, very top. To stand and watch the game from up there. It's a great vantage point if you want to see, kind of from the top down, and maybe you have seats up there as well. But I love standing up there, and there's a bar up there and all that stuff. So one of my favorite places. So I like that kind of upper deck where you can get a view of the entire field. So
yeah, and to speak a little bit more about it, in addition to the loge seating, it's also going to add. Right now, it's rendered to add a coach's private area to add their coaches' rooms, basically, in their offices, and there's also like a a private seating area for the coaches and their families as well on a deck level. So, along with this, there's some other areas of the football facilities that are getting updated, and we need coaches' offices. We've been adding coaches and analysts to our staff. And, before we didn't have enough room for the coaches that we had. So now you're going to have, if this comes to fruition, you're going to have more coaching spaces for the coaches and more traditional setting for big time schools where their offices overlook the field. And, that's a big part of what they're doing with this particular edition.
Yeah. And plus there's a big deck up there, like a big enclosed area with like a bar and concessions and stuff like that, kind of like the stadium club. That's
they're calling it the launch club.
Yeah,
to go with the space theme.
Yeah, it's cool. So we got stuff coming up on that as well. Let's hear about the timeline from Terry Mahajer.
Well, the concept was first and foremost, and it wasn't an approval process. As I continue with my tenure here, I'm learning about approval processes to the state. Every state is unique. Every governance of your individual institutions and your higher ed governing bodies of the whole state are different. So I'm learning a little bit more about what we have to do to get those approvals. But in the meantime, you have to fund it. As you guys know, we can't receive state allocated dollars to fund this, so it has to be privately raised. So, where we are with funding is a big part of this. We'll start putting together performas, but we wanted to go ahead and cast the vision of what we're trying to do to get people excited. And now the next phase is funding. Once you start the funding process, you get the approvals, then you can do the blueprints. The blueprints usually take 6 to 8 months, and then you start from there. That usually are doing the blueprints during that time. So I have no timeline right now, and I don't want to be beholden to any timelines, and I just never know how these things, from my experience, and I've done a big project in the state of Florida before. It was a while back, and so sometimes the governance changes of how these things are initiated.
I'm not sure what project. I don't know where he was in the state of Florida at an institution to do anything in the state of Florida, though. So I'm a little confused by that comment from him. But the rest of it.
What do you mean?
Where was he in the state of Florida where he would have done something like that?
He's down at FIU or FAU, one of those two.
Was he?
He was there for a little while.
Okay. All right. So maybe that's what it was. All right. So yeah, no timeline basically. So once the funding starts rolling in, I think is when, this thing really starts to get going. So, probably the players that are here will never see any of this stuff happen. So maybe. Well,
I mean, look, here's the thing about funding, right? The bonds and everything right now, the price of money is extremely low. So our current stadium was financed at around 4%. The current price of funds is around 2%. So it would actually make sense and behoove them to do this more quickly if they can while the rates are low before they start popping. And I think that's why you're hearing some noise about this. That also means that we can fund more with the bonds than what we could normally do. So I imagine he's going to go out and try to fundraise. I heard, we'd all heard the $200 million number that we talked about last week. But I think that we actually have more buying power in what we can build now than we did even 2 years ago. So, that may make it more, and we're turning up revenue. He recently hired a new person to head up the shareholder society. They've reached 200, and they're looking at that person's goal is to add an additional 100 shareholders by year's end, within a year. So I think he's got a plan for the funding, but I think that it's not so much of a hindrance if they go back and try to do it by raising funds. I think he's more likely to go to the bond market and then, through the Loge and through, the Cove gating that was announced before, they'll try to pay for the facilities that way. Although I believe the Recovery River is already fully funded.
I believe it is too, yeah. So obviously he spoke about some funding there, and another place that funding is kind of coming from would be stadium naming. And we haven't really heard much about that, especially since it got kind of put on the back burner. It was supposed to be announced, and then it wasn't announced, and then all of a sudden all this stuff was announced. Somebody did ask him, though, about that stadium naming thing and what's going on with that.
Well, we're still working through the process, and we're working through just making sure that we got all of our I's dotted and our T's crossed, and we're working through with the university and trying to make sure that all the processes are in place. So hopefully it'll be soon.
All right. Well, we almost need a decoder for that comment there because
I don't think so. I think we know exactly what's going on just by what he's already said. And here's the reason I say that. We know the legislature got involved with the previous insurance company roofing company that wanted to sponsor us. They went through the pains on this particular company, which is another roofing company, which is already a sponsor for us. They went as far as putting that on that background on the media background. They were supposed to announce it at the BOT meeting and get the official sign off at the Board of Trustee meeting. That was postponed a week. It was taken off of the agenda. And when he says he's learning how things get done in the state of Florida and knowing the political history with roofers and what happened on the last deal that we had, I think he's letting you know between the lines what's going on there.
Yeah. Well, obviously they want to make sure everything is a go before they announce anything fully on that. So another thing that kind of came up, and I think that this was a discussion in the dungeon. If you're not on UCFsports.com in the dungeon, you may not have heard about this. But somebody, noticed that a lot of the stuff was like space oriented. Like the new renderings had like countdown clocks and all this stuff where it really looked space age and like, so somebody was like, are they going to change the branding? I think it was Brandon that came up with it, that kind of like, read between the lines, are they going to wear space uniforms all the time, or are they gonna? Do they want to go get away from the night and maybe go to Citronaut, or really add in the space thing, because the players seem to really love that. The recruits love the space uniforms, and the fans love it as well. We're very connected with NASA. The school was basically built to be a feeder to occupations and stuff with space. So. This is what somebody asked Terry Mahajer, like, is the space thing going to be, more prevalent than maybe the night is at some point? Here's what he had to say.
I think we want to capture both. I love Knights because we're the only, I guess Army is what they're Knights too, aren't they? Black Knights, yeah, okay. So, but I mean, the Knights is such a cool logo and such a cool name. I just think we want to, celebrate our space heritage, why this university was started, and it's just such a great connection, and people love it. So why not use things that people love? I don't know if we like the Knights. I don't know how much people really look at it as medieval. I never really looked at it as medieval. I just like it. You're a knight, So going forward, it's kind of the creed of being a knight, the loyalty and the passion and the camaraderie of that.
All right. So the person asked him, about the medieval knights and like trying to, and I know they're on Twitter and social media, a lot of people have said, we need to, make the stadium, look like a facade of a castle or something like that. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but anyway, so the question kind of, it did say, the person said medieval in there, so that's where that came from. If I would have cut that out, though, it wouldn't have sounded quite right. So that's why I left that in there. But that is the Terry Mahajer quotes from that, and that's kind of, the discussion on the facilities as far as I'm concerned. Roger, you have more that you want to talk about with that?
I've got some notes on it, so I can just run through a few of these. One interesting thing that was also included on the renderings was a connecting bridge between the video tower, or between the new tower and the practice field. So where the coaches' offices would be and the practice field, so that the video team doesn't have to climb up and down that tower every single time. So that was pretty cool. Also had a larger and revamped weight room. So they made that larger. The training room was bigger. Meeting rooms were bigger. The recreational areas for the players was bigger. They've basically separated and made the IPF and those areas over there, the indoor practice facility and the Wayne Dench and all that, the players' area. Remember that Blake Bortles and Tay Train put some money up for the training room and the medical staff, so that will be good. Huh?
Latavius Murray. I was just
correct,
so people knew who you were talking about.
Sorry, I always forget. I like nicknames. Other than that, the players, they're also redoing the Wayne Dench entrance and the rec area for the players there. And then I like the idea of updating the soccer complex. It was interesting that he, for a while we've had a plan in place to upgrade basketball. It was interesting that he omitted that. Obviously, 50 of the 130, so there's a lot of money left over for upgrades everywhere else. But it was interesting to me that he upgraded that. But
I don't
that was
think this is one of the things that I disagree with. I don't think we need any upgrades for basketball, like especially the arena. That's a beautiful arena, and nobody goes to it. Nobody goes to those
I'm not
games.
talking about the arena. It's more what they were
their
looking
facilities. They have done some of that stuff in the last couple of years, though, like their weight room and all that.
Yeah, but it's still they're where they're practicing and all that stuff is usually not on the floor in the arena. It's in the old venue where.
It's the second level of the old venue is where they practice.
Yeah, exactly, and it needs a lot of help and more space. And I think that's an area that we have
got a full court.
Opportunities in.
It's got a full court up there.
Another thing that kind of came up,
they need to win as well, because it's really not a revenue producing sport like football is. So, I mean, I agree with him focusing on football because that's where the revenue comes from. So
I'm not saying that you don't, but I think you also need to throw some money to basketball because the tourney credits, especially, he mentioned, talking about realignment. Tournament credits are a big revenue driver for a lot of conferences. So you need, in order to compete, I mean, you look at what Memphis is doing in recruiting, you look at what Houston is doing in recruiting. In order for us to compete there, we're going to need to upgrade our facilities. So I think that's got to be a priority for him as well. One of the things he'd mentioned is that he fielded a lot of calls of congratulations from folks in California. He mentioned media folks, but he also mentioned others. And I know that the Pac-12 recently disclosed that some schools that you wouldn't expect that have shown interest in applying for the Pac-12 have recently applied. So we know that UCF prepped a deck before Oklahoma and Texas was leaving. And with what they said and the fact that he specifically mentioned schools in California, that makes me wonder and makes me think that we probably applied. Some other news that came out of that, UCF was number 1 in engagement since August 2017, so social media engagement. 9th most nationally televised game since 2018. Now think about that. The 9th most nationally televised game since 2018 of all FBS teams. That puts us ahead of a lot of older schools. 10th overall in engagement across all platforms. So that's Facebook, Twitter, all forms of social media. And then lastly, this project, he didn't mention that this project was started when he got here. So as soon as he came in, he started working with some former design folks that he'd worked with at Arkansas State to put these renderings together. So he's been working on this for a long time, ever since he started here. So this has been in the works for at least 8 months, which really makes me think about how far down the road his plans are. And it's been relatively quiet. Nobody's heard anything until, obviously Andrew saw it a couple months ago. but the public certainly hasn't seen anything coming out of UCF for this. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, I think the bigger thing that we're all interested in besides this is that in 9 days, 21 hours, 45 minutes, and 6 seconds, football starts. And we have a game against Boise State. Thursday, September 2nd, 7 p.m. on ESPN or the Bounce House. If you're going to be one of those watching it on TV or at the Bounce House, it is coming very quickly. 9 days. That puts a smile on my face, and that gets exciting. Last week, because this is Monday that we're doing this. Last week, they had their second scrimmage, full scrimmage with the team. Here's what Gus Malzahn had to say about that second scrimmage.
Had a 100-plus play scrimmage. That was by design. I think the ones had 40 plays, the twos had 43, the threes had about a little over 20. We went live kickoff return. There was some good on both sides today. We had 2-for-2 field goals, which that was really important. We were 100% on PATs. So, I think we're getting better in our kicking game, each practice out. And like I told the group, overall, I think we're getting better each practice. And what are we, 2 weeks and 1 day away? I mean, it's real football right out here. But overall, we didn't have any major injuries, which was something you're always concerned about this close to the season. R.J. Harvey, I know y'all heard, we lost him for the season. That was a big blow. But at the same time, we got to have other people. It's an opportunity for other people to step up. And we gave all the running backs a chance to carry the football and show what they could do. So, like I said, overall, good day. I think it was a productive day. And we're finishing up fall camp. I believe we got 2 more practices and start school, and our routine starts. So, overall, I feel good about where we're at.
All right. It's coming. It is coming quick. He mentioned there R.J. Harvey out with a non-contact torn ACL. And he was, part of that group that was running with the number ones because of a couple other injuries that are out there. Mark Anthony Richards is still banged up, I think, from last year. And then a couple other guys are still banged up. So, do we want to kind of run through the running backs a little bit?
Yeah. One thing before we do that, though, just because you were talking about injury updates, Jarvis Ware, he was a defensive back transfer from Mizzou, also went down with an ACL this week, and he was contending for a starting spot and expected to start as a cornerback. So that was a big blow for us as well.
I didn't hear about that actually until right now. So news to me. I missed that one, I guess. That's a bummer because that dude's
big
good.
Bummer.
Yeah, he's good. So that's a bummer. Oh, well, he'll get another year to stay around. So both of those guys will get medical red shirts, I'm assuming. So what a bummer. Okay, running backs. So, Roger, where do you want to start? Because you made this list. I'll let you start this one.
Well, I think the big thing is just to run through the list so we understand what depth, as a reminder, that we have on on our roster, and then we can talk a little bit about them. And obviously, R.J. Harvey is no longer going to be an option for us this time. So we can talk about who do we think is going to start. What kind of depth do we have, and did this go from a strength to a question mark? So,
all right,
those are the three.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's hear what Gus had to say real quick about the running backs, and then we'll talk about it. How about that?
Great.
Isaiah Bowser is a veteran guy doing some good things, and then the other guys I think are all desperate to compete. And Johnny's doing some good things. We're just trying to make him an every down back, and he's really getting better each day. Mark Anthony is coming on, doing some good things. Coles did a good job today, and then our young freshman Williams, he got some carries too. So we're just kind of each day a depth chart, kind of fluid, who's ready and all that. But we do have some guys that can do it. It's just a matter of them feeling more comfortable with what we're doing.
All righty. He mentioned some names there. They're on the list, obviously. So let's talk about that. Roger, go ahead. I'll let you we'll let you run this little segment.
Okay, it's interesting. Obviously, we've got some size and we've got some small guys on our list. I just went through and I included the numbers for the team so that when you're watching the games, you kind of have an idea of who you're looking at. So the first one on the list is number 6, Mark Anthony Richards, 6'1", 215 pounds, big running back. He's a redshirt sophomore from Auburn, and again, as Gus kind of mentioned, he's coming off of an injury, but he was a very highly rated prospect and a great running back. So interested to get him back, and hearing Gus mention that he's getting back to form, because that's going to be important for us. Next is number 20, Anthony Williams. He's a 6 foot, 215 pound freshman.
So you just did this just so everybody knows. We're going in order with numbers, not with who thinks who we think is starting or any of that stuff. This is by numbers.
Yeah, this is just telling you who we have. He was also a local guy and highly anticipated freshman. Number 22, Demarius Good, 5'11", 185. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's a little bit smaller, but this was one of those guys, again, Demarius Good, who we have high expectations for. Number 25, Johnny Richardson, 5'7", 170 pound sophomore. He's the scat back. So if you think about Otis Anderson, Adrian Killen style, very explosive, very fast, can cut really, really well. Number 27, Isaiah Bowser, 6'1", 225 pounds, another big. He's that senior transfer from Northwestern. He's a guy that I'm going to look for to open up holes, and he was used in when they were talking about practice. He was opening up holes for R.J. Harvey, and expect him to be a third down and maybe fourth down specialist. We have number 33, Trillian Coles, 5'8", 170 pounds, redshirt junior. Now remember, Trillian Coles was making some noise. I believe he was a walk-on at the time, but he was making some noise because he was doing great cutting behind the line. He was injured, but he's back now. And obviously, we talked about number 44, R.J. Harvey, 5'8", 195 pound, redshirt sophomore transfer from Virginia. He was the quarterback that turned into a running back, and unfortunately, he's going to be out for the season. So, what do you think, Andrew? Who gets the start, and who's the top 2 running backs behind him?
Isaiah Bowser gets the start, personally. I just have a feeling that that's the way it's going to go. We shall see, I guess. But from what I understand, he was the first in the rotation throughout this stuff. So he's got the most experience out of all these guys. Played in the Big Ten championship game when Northwestern was in it a couple of years ago. Has been out not out, but down injured for the last couple of seasons. Hasn't done much there at Northwestern. That's why he transferred as a grad transfer. This guy, though, is when I think of Big Ten, when I think of Big Ten football, I think about big running backs. I think about powerful running backs. We have not had a guy like this, I don't think. Especially I call this guy a human bowling ball. I mean, he's 6'1", 225. He's a big dude. If you've seen pictures of him out there, go look it up on Google if you haven't. The dude's arms are huge. They're probably about the size of my legs. And my legs are not very big, but for arms, huge arms this guy has. And I have a feeling that he is going to be used very heavily. I would think Johnny Richardson would probably be behind him because Mark Anthony Richards is not 100% healthy yet. Otherwise, I would think the starter would probably be Richards. Then with Bowser and Johnny Richardson behind him. Who knows if he throws some of these other guys in, but those are the guys that have the experience and the guys that I've heard the most about and people talking about them during practice that have been out there and everything else. So I think you see Isaiah Bowser take the first snap as a running back in this first game. It could be Johnny Richardson if they use Isaiah Bowser just on those, first and third down or third and fourth down or whatever. But Johnny Richardson is limited by his size. I think that Gus Malzahn is used to having a bigger back there, so we'll see. That's my question mark as far as that goes. Of why they, we've seen Johnny Richardson, we know what he can do. I worry about the size, and I know we had Adrian Killens and Otis Anderson and all that stuff, but there were times where we all said, we need a bigger running back, we need a bigger running back, we need a bigger running back. You can't run up the middle all the time with a little dude like that. So I think this is something that Gus Malzahn is very strong about, having a big running back there. So in my opinion, my estimation, my prediction is Isaiah Bowser is the starter game 1.
I would agree with you just because I have a question mark around Mark Anthony Richards. And I also think that Johnny Richardson plays in the 2-back sets. Obviously, RJ Harvey was playing in 2-back sets with Isaiah Bowser, with Bowser playing a little bit of the fullback role, and Northwestern, he was playing a little bit of that role as well.
He was the starting running back in his freshman season. I think he scored. He had one of he was one of the top running backs in all of the Big Ten his freshman season, I believe. Or his
and I think he got injured after that, correct?
Yeah, yes, he hurt his knee. I think tore an ACL or something. So hadn't been the same since then, but they were using him as a full, all-down running back. So that's why I say that, because I believe he's healthy now. And I don't know. I originally I said they have to use him as a fullback. He's going to be a fullback. I said that from the beginning, right when they announced that he was coming here. But I don't know. Now I think that with the injuries and everything else, that he's going to be used in a completely different way. He could be used as a lead runner as well, but he's going to carry the ball, and he can catch the ball too. So.
Well, I know that Cincinnati, obviously the last 2 years have had big backs back there as well. So we're used to seeing those in the A.
Yeah, remember
AC.
that guy that they had that was like, he was a bowling ball as well. I don't remember his name, that Cincinnati had. He was one of
he was 6'2", 6'3", something like that, and really, really big.
Yeah, about the same size as Isaiah Bowser, maybe a little heavier, but the same build. When you see a prototypical like NFL running back guy, it's about that size. 6'1", maybe even a bit tall for a lot of those guys. But when you see one of them. You know what I'm saying? When you see one of those guys, and Isaiah Bowser is one of those guys. He just needs to stay healthy. I'm so excited. I've been talking about him the entire time. Y'all have heard me talk constantly about him. That's probably, besides Big Cat Bryant on the defensive line, I'm more excited about Isaiah Bowser than anybody else.
Well, for me, we've got a 1A and 1B. I think 1A for Bowser right now, just simply because we don't know the status of Mark Anthony Richards. Mark Anthony Richards being the 1B. I think Johnny Richardson plays that scat back role in 2-back sets. So we don't know how much Gus is going to use that yet, but I don't see him trying to pull the old Josh Heupel and sliding him between the tackles. So for me, it would be 1A, 1B, and then I think Demarius Good as number 3, Trillian Coles number 4, and Anthony Williams number 5, unless he pushes in camp, because I know he's very, very highly touted, and I think if I remember correctly, at one point Demarius Good and Anthony Williams were teammates in high school. So I expect a lot out of him. I just don't think it's his time yet.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that. So, I think that does it for the running backs. Let's hear what Gus Malzahn had to say about the wide receivers before we start talking about them.
We have a few of those guys that did play last year in certain roles, and you can see them growing. We just about have the guys in the positions that we think. We've been kind of playing back and forth, kind of mixing and matching to see who, is the strongest at kind of what position. So we just about have that set. We do have some junior college guys, some young guys that are still developing. We need them to come on, and each day we're putting them in different situations. But we're getting closer to our wide receiver rotation. We'll need to solve that probably in the next 3 or 4 days.
All righty. Well, it sounds like there's definitely still question marks at the wide receiver position to me. I don't know how this is going to go at all. I have no idea. I'm going to wait till I see it out there to believe it, I guess. We have a ton of them. We have a ton. You can go through them, Roger.
All right, so again, I did this in order of the jersey number. So we're going to start with number 0, Titus, and I'm going to kill his name here. I always do. Macau Atimalala, 6'1", 175 freshman, 4-star, as you remember, from Hawaii. Very excited to have him. Next is number 1, Jalen Robinson, 5'9", 180-pound, redshirt junior from Oklahoma. That transfer for us. He did really, really well, was just shy of 1,000 yards. He would have broken 1,000 yards last year had we had a normal set of games. Next is number 2, Caden Robinson, 6'2", 205-pound sophomore. Number 3, Brandon Johnson, 6'2", 195-pound redshirt senior transfer from Tennessee. We've heard a lot about him and his consistency. Number 4, Ryan O'Keefe, 5'10", 175-pound junior. He had a little bit of a breakout year last year in that he was getting more touches. He had some good, he's fast and was able to outrun some folks, but he had a case of the drops too. So we'll see what we get out of him this year, but he was featured in camp video. Number 15, Jordan Johnson, 6'2", 185-pound redshirt freshman, Notre Dame transfer, and he was a former 5-star recruit. So he was one that supposedly made a lot of progress in his freshman year in the system there in Notre Dame. And he's now part of the family. So it's we'll see what he brings to the table. Number 17, Amari Johnson, wide receiver, 5'10", 160-pound junior. Number 19, Justin Menard, 5'11", 190-pound redshirt sophomore. Number 29, Cade Sam, 6'3", 180-pound redshirt sophomore. Number 31, this is a new one for me. I didn't remember this guy. Jawan Forte, 6'1", 195-pound redshirt junior from Walsh. He was a transfer. Number 80, Nate Craig Myers, 6'2", 205-pound redshirt senior. He came from Colorado State, but remember, he also transferred from Auburn before Colorado State. Number 81, Jalen Griffin, 6'3", 185-pound sophomore from Kilgore College. Be interesting to see what he does because he's certainly got size that can help us. Number 84, Kivon Ahmad, 6 foot, 185-pound redshirt junior. He got some play last year as well. So, who starts, Andrew?
Well, obviously, Jalen Robinson Flash is going to be there. Besides that, no clue. Honestly, I would assume that we try to play this freshman 4-star kid from Hawaii. I think that he probably has a little bit of a connection with his brother from Hawaii, Dylan Gabriel. So that wouldn't shock me if he's involved early and often. Brandon Johnson probably in there. Ryan O'Keefe probably in there. That's 4, I believe. And a 5th, probably either Jordan Johnson coming from Notre Dame, the 5-star kid, or possibly, oh man, I don't even know. like you said, I'd like to see what Jalen Griffin can do. But I mean, Amari Johnson, I guess we've seen a little bit of him. He's another smaller guy, but I personally want to see these wide receivers that are over 6 foot. Those are the guys that I want to see play. I want to see big, tall wide receivers. I know Jalen Robinson is not that, but I just feel that we need big, strong wide receivers. Yes, it's nice to have a fast guy in the slot or whatever, but I hope that we start using these big guys a little bit more. And then
it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how many trips and empty formations that we use. But I agree with you. I think Jalen Robinson, I mean, that's a no-brainer. He's going to be playing. Brandon Johnson.
Is he a number one wide receiver, though? I mean, is he a guy that would – I don't know about that because everybody's going to be covering him no matter what, because he's the guy that everybody knows out of this entire group. He's the guy that almost had 1,000 yards last year. So I bet this year, I'm just going to say he's not going to have that good of a year.
Well, you saw that towards the tail end of the season that he was starting to get covered more. I think what Gus is going to want to do is make sure he has height around the other areas and try to make him the second option. So you got a primary receiver that's really good that you're going to go to, that's going to be a go-to receiver, and Jalen Robinson is going to be the one that's going to get maybe 1 or 2 less touches. But he's that speed guy who can get free, and once he gets free over the top, he's gone. That's where they're going to use him, in my opinion.
I don't know about speed on the other guys except Ryan O'Keefe. I mean, he's probably the only one that we've seen, and he's a littler guy too. So
yeah,
I'd
see Ryan O'Keefe. In my opinion, that's part of what he was playing last year. Brandon Johnson, he's got a little bit of size on him, 6'2", 295 pounds. Heard a lot about him as well. In fact, he's a captain. So if he's a captain, I expect him to play.
Yeah.
So
you don't not play if you're a captain. That's
So you've got Jalen Robinson, I think, Brandon Johnson for sure. I think Ryan O'Keefe is number 3. He's going to be your slot receiver. The fourth guy is going to be a toss-up. I'm going to go with Jalen Griffin. I think they're going to want another person on the other side of the field with height.
He's a junior college guy too. So.
Yes, he is, from Kilgore College. And, I expect him because of his height. I think they'll try to play him on the other side unless he is just totally not getting the Division I game, or he's got a case of the dropsies. I think personally he's going to be your number 4 wideout.
Okay. All righty.
So how strong do you think this unit is?
I have no idea except for Jalen Robinson. He's the only one that we know anything about, really. I mean, Ryan O'Keefe, we saw him a couple times last year. Amari Johnson, we may have seen him a few times. But the rest of them, we have no idea, basically.
We have several transfers this year. Which one do you think makes the biggest impact? Besides Jalen Robinson, because
I think Brandon Johnson obviously, makes the biggest impact. I think Jordan Johnson's going to come along, though. I don't know anything about this group really, besides what I saw in the spring game with the guys that were here. I mean, a lot of these guys weren't even here for the spring game, so yeah. I mean, we haven't seen Titus play yet. We didn't see him in the spring. We didn't see Jordan Johnson in the spring. Well, no, I know, but I was just saying guys that we haven't seen.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, most of these guys. I mean, Brandon Johnson. We saw him make that over the middle catch. I think towards the end zone, or maybe it was a touchdown in the spring game. That was an incredible catch over the middle, like one of those things where if you didn't catch that ball, and even if you did catch that ball, your head might have gotten taken off. But he made it and handled it very well. So I'm excited to see him play. I mean, he's a redshirt senior. He's a grown man. So I don't know. I want to see these. I really want to see us go with some big wide receivers. Gabe Davis type size guys. The guy that is, I always forget his name because we didn't talk about him much except for dropping the balls. That's playing now for Los Angeles for the Rams. That is doing very well. What's the guy's name?
He's actually in our news and notes this week. And his name obviously is Jacob Harris.
Yeah, Jacob Harris. We didn't talk about him much. I messed with him constantly that he dropped the ball half the time he was open. He ran his routes, but half the time he dropped the ball. So, but he's a big guy. He's playing tight end in the NFL.
He's a super athlete, and at the end of the day, to be fair to him, he started his Division I career as a soccer player at Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah, I understand that. But as far as a football player, we didn't talk about him much except for when he didn't do well. So, anyway, but he's one of those big bodies like I'm talking about. I cannot think of anybody's name tonight. The other guy that is playing tight end for the Texans from a couple of years ago. What is his name? Oh, man. I cannot think of it. He was a big body guy. Man. All right. Well, anyway, I want to see the big body wide receivers. I just think that corners are getting taller in our conference. It's the same thing with offensive linemen. And
you're not talking about Jordan Akins, are you?
Yeah, Jordan Akins was a bigger
okay.
guy. Yes, Jordan Akins. That's who I was trying to think of. I could not think of his name. Big guys like that. The guys that you will see, play in the NFL. The guys that look like NFL players. But what I was getting at was we were talking about offensive and defensive linemen that are getting bigger. Corners are getting bigger as well. And with that size difference, last year, I don't remember, it was Tulsa or somebody that had huge corners. They had really big, fast, athletic corners. And I noticed it compared to our guys. It was a big difference. I think it was them. Cincinnati had a couple big corners and safeties as well. And it's part of, the conference getting bigger and better players. Wide receivers go right along with that. We've been playing with smaller guys because that's who we could get. You know what I'm saying? The bigger guys, the more athletic guys were going to the SEC. They were going to the Big Ten, all that stuff. We're starting to get guys that are bigger now, though. We're starting to get. It's just our conference is evolving where people realize that even with that talent can come here and play and get reps. So I just think that you're going to see more and more evolution with larger corners and wide receivers. So I personally, again, I've said it a million times, I want to see those big wide receivers.
Well, I agree with you as far as size is concerned. Let's I have a few open questions that I have for the season. Number one, what's your confidence level on the offense and defense? And if you would, rate it from 1 to 10.
All right, I promise you we will revisit this, but I want to get through. I have a couple other Gus Malzahn clips here that I want to play real quick, and then we will go back to that, I promise. Okay, so we'll do that. All right, so somebody asked Gus Malzahn what were his biggest questions still after the second scrimmage.
Running back depth and order is one thing. After this scrimmage, our staff will get together and we'll kind of start putting the pieces of the puzzle. We're not ready to say, okay, this is the guys we're going with against Boise. We are getting close. Special teams is a big piece to that too. Last week was punt return. Today was kickoff return. We got a helmet only practice tomorrow. shells practice after that, and then we start school. So in the next 2 days, after the next 2 days, we'll have everything set with how we're going to go about personnel-wise for Boise.
All right. Well, we've talked about a lot of this stuff in previous shows. We've talked about it on the radio show, especially the special teams thing. Kickers, more than anything, is concerning to me because you need a good, quality, consistent kicker. We have a bunch of them in camp, more than we normally do, just because of Obarski's performance last year. Not very good at certain times, lost us a game or two. So I think that's a big deal. Obviously, we're all concerned about the running back situation, and it sounds like the coaches are as well. But here is what Gus Malzahn had to say about the kickers.
We're rotating all of them. I mean, they're all getting a chance, to show what they can do. We've got open competition. We're going day by day. Who won today? And so we're in the process of that competition, and we're yet to determine who'll be the first guy out there against Boise.
That worries me. Roger, does that worry you right there, what he just said about the kickers?
Yeah. I mean, Cincinnati last year, Obarski, flashbacks, PTSD or KTSD, kicker, traumatic stress disorder. I don't know. Yeah, of course it does, man. I mean, that's one thing we've been used to for a really long time is having some very solid kickers. You had Matt Wright. When I think about that, kickers, the old adage, kickers aren't important until you need them, is 100% true.
Yep.
Kickers can win you games when you need field position, and you have a much higher percentage of being able to get into field position to kick a winning field goal or tie, like we did last year, where we had a 20-yard line kick that did not make it in, and thus lost to Cincinnati. Yeah. So it's a huge difference, and it worries me 100%. I think he has no confidence in the kickers whatsoever. I mean, the fact that he's like, "Yay, team, we went 2 for 2."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully that gets a lot better in the next couple of days. They need to figure that out. That's a big deal. So I'm worried about that. We need those guys. I mean, I've thought about that kick that was missed at Cincinnati so many times, and I'm sure Orbowski's thought about it a lot more. But that was a big deal. That could have completely changed our season last year, beating Cincinnati, and we have to do it this year. That is the game that I have circled that is probably the most important game besides the USF game that there is on our schedule. So can't have stuff like that again. All right. A lot of questions about Mikey Keene. His name was brought up quite a bit. And here's one of the questions about Mikey Keene.
Yeah, he's had a good camp. It's real important to him. You do see him improving, and he's out there fighting. He's fighting to compete, and that's what you look for from a coach's standpoint, man. Who wants it the worst? Who's important to? And, he's battling, and Quad's battling, and, the rest of them are battling too.
All right, well, it still sounds like there's some questions there as well. So with the backup quarterback. But I would assume from what I saw in the spring game, that's all I've seen with my own eyes. I have heard things, but I'm assuming that Mikey Keene will be the backup quarterback, like we talked about earlier. But that's a big thing that needs to be figured out as well, obviously. And he didn't sound horribly confident right there when he was talking about the backup quarterbacks. So I'm a little bit worried about that as well. So, and then this last one real quick here was what he needs to do in the rest of the time, what he's going to focus on for the rest of the camp.
We'll start narrowing things down. We'll start worrying about Boise State. It's been more about just getting us, ready. But now we're to a point where we're going to start really being specific on the things that we're going to do to play against them. And probably bigger than that, being the first year, is not just the first game, but we're defining who we are offensively and defensively. We always want to play to our strengths. We have enough information now after two scrimmages as coaching staff. We can go back and say, okay, man, we're good at this. This is a strength. Hey, we're not great at this. Let's wait on that and let's build around our strengths. So we'll be doing that really in all three phases after this scrimmage.
Okay, well, it's time to start game planning, I think. 9 days out. That was probably like last Wednesday or Thursday. I think it was Wednesday when those were recorded. So they've had a little bit of time between now and then. Do you feel confident? I guess that was your question, I guess, that you asked earlier, though. What's the confidence level? Offense and defense, right?
Right.
Okay. Do you want me to answer it, or do you want to answer it? Do you want to answer it first or me?
You go first.
Okay. Given last year's defense, especially in the last game, was horrid. With the transfers that we have coming in, especially, although now we've lost the transfer from Missouri that I expected to do big things. The defense, I think, will be a lot better this year, obviously. I know the defensive line will be a lot better, and I think that's going to make a huge difference stopping the run and maybe getting some pressure on the quarterbacks. And that's huge because we were really missing that. So as far as defense goes, I would say you wanted me to go 1 to 10, right?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to give my confidence level of the defense at this point, until I see the very first game, I'm going to give my confidence to them as a 6. I'm more confident than I was last year. The bowl game is really what I'm talking about, is where they were really horrible. They get a 6 because Randy Shannon is not here anymore. And I just expect a better defense, and I know some of the coaches there, and I know what they expect. I know the defensive backs coach very well and what he expects. So I think that group back there will be solid, whoever it is. I don't even know who the guys are yet. I mean, obviously Devad Wilson has switched, and he's going to be a safety now. We know that he's a good athlete, so that'll be good. And then the defensive line is better. So I'm going to give the defense a 6 for my confidence level. Offense, obviously, we have a great offensive line. We have a great quarterback. Besides that, though, are the questions. We have a good tight end. I shouldn't have said great, because I hate to use the word great, except for, I guess those guys would get great, the offensive line and the quarterback. Besides that, though, are the questions of confidence, because we don't know who the starting running back is, hopefully Isaiah Bowser, in my opinion. And then we also don't know really who the starting wide receivers are. We just ran through the whole list, and we knew, really who the number one, or one guy that we knew would be starting and playing. Not even the number one guy, I don't think. But, maybe to start out the number one guy, but I don't know if he'll finish as the number one guy. Talking about Flash, Jalen Robinson. So with the offensive line and the quarterback situation, I'm going to give the offense an 8 of my confidence level, because of those two things are extremely important: offensive line and the quarterback. Besides that, though, are huge question marks. So that's where I'm at with that.
Okay. So for me, I'm going to go offense first. I'm going to say that my confidence level on the offense is probably a 9. And here's why I say that. I do think we've got some pieces and got some pieces coming back in the wide receiving core. I think Ryan O'Keefe will be better this year. I think we've got some more experienced wide receivers that can help us with that bridge year and Brandon Johnson. And I think we've got some height, which will help us as well. Running backs, I still have confidence in the folks that we have back there as well. The offensive line is a senior-laden group that has a lot of starts under their belt. So I'm hoping they live up to expectations. You've got an All-American on that line. You've got a freshman All-American on that line. You've got a bunch of guys that should do really, really well. So if you've got a good offensive line, your offense usually goes well. Dylan Gabriel seems to have added the run to his game. And, it's always tough to game plan for a new coach. So I expect that we'll catch some folks unawares. You're not going to get the same 4 plays from Josh Heupel, quote unquote, 4 plays. So I expect us to catch some teams by surprise, and there's still going to be speed. So the question is going to be, what are the installs going to look like? I imagine they're going to get progressively more complex as we move along. If we use the tight end over the end of over the middle of the field, which I think Gus will, didn't do as much at Auburn, but I think he knows what he's got there to stretch the field out. I think we're going to have a very successful offense, and I'm going to go with a number 9, and I have all the confidence in the world in Dylan Gabriel. The only reason I don't go 10 is just because it's a new system for our team. That being said, defensively, I'm going to go, and I'm going to push that number up to an 8. I think we have some folks that are 1 year better. I think we've got Devad Wilson that we can leverage. Obviously, Ware's out. Jaden Francois is somebody that I'm looking to see step up. He's been a year with us. I think our middle linebackers are stepping up, and they're going to be even better because they've got some good defensive ends and interior defensive linemen that are going to create some pressure. And more importantly, and what we struggled at last year was keeping guys inside the box. A lot of them were getting out of containment, and that's what was hurting us is when A, plays were being extended, and B, people were getting outside of the box. I think those defensive ends will help that, and I think those interior linemen will keep the quarterback from holding on the ball for 6 or 7 seconds like Desmond Ridder did and just dumping out whenever the play flushes, depending on how the defense decides to play it. So to me, I think we jump to an 8, and I'm very, very confident, in this team as a whole. Now, second question, what group do we lean on to be the most successful? Is it going to be the offense that leads the way, or is it going to be the defense?
Well, I would hope it's the defense, to be honest with you, that you lean on, because that's what you do. You shouldn't have to. The defense should be able to take up the slack, and they haven't had the chance to do that really the last couple of years, especially with the speed and the fast scoring and stuff like that. They were in and out really, really fast. Love the fast scoring and all that stuff, but then again, it really hurts the way your defense can work. So I hope that I'm pleasantly surprised by our defense and my rating of a 6 after this first game, and I would hope that we can lean on the defense. I don't want to have to lean on the offense to score a bunch of points, because I don't think that Gus's system is going to score quite as many points as Josh Heupel's did. It's not going to put up the huge gaudy numbers like Josh Heupel's or Scott Frost's did, in my opinion. It's going to be more efficient. So I say defense is who we need to, or we're going to lean on.
I agree with you there, and I think the most important position group of that defense is going to be that defensive line. I have a lot of faith in those guys along the defensive line, and if they can put pressure on plays and disrupt plays early in the snap, right after the snap, I think it's going to shut a lot of teams down. We can get field position for folks and get the ball in the hands of our offense that's learning along the way. And they may not be they may not be as fast as what Josh Heupel is, but I think they're still going to be pretty up tempo. And as a result, I think they're going to be able to score points. So I think that defensive line will cover for our cornerbacks quite a bit. I think with our linebackers getting a little bit better, that's going to help out as well. But the big thing is that defensive line eating up that line and getting and disrupting and playing havoc. If we can win the field position game, we have a good enough offense that we can run up and down the field.
All righty. Okay, another thing, team captains were announced. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel, defensive lineman Big Cat Bryant, wide receiver Brandon Johnson, and offensive lineman Sam Jackson. And those are all guys that, it's interesting, though, that 2 transfer guys are in there. So, but I believe that some of these transfers were brought in to be leadership positions as well. And I would not be surprised if either one of those guys was brought in for that reason, as well as being good football players. But Big Cat especially, everything that I've heard other players talk about him is that he is a very inspirational guy to all of them and is the rah-rah guy. And I'm all about that because I think that he's going to be a hell of a football player for us. I cannot wait to see him take the field. One of the most exciting off-season things that happened was getting him. So very excited about that. Obviously, Sam Jackson, Dylan Gabriel, those guys you expect to be team captains, guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm excited for them. All of those guys have displayed leadership and willingness, especially with Sam Jackson. I mean, people forget he's played all over the line, and he's done that out of necessity. So talk about a guy that's team first, that's willing to do the extra, learn different positions and techniques and whatever to be successful. That's Sam Jackson for you. So congratulations to him. I think that's well deserved.
Absolutely. All right, going to do a commercial here, and we'll be back with the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. If you haven't figured it out yet, I love Tijuana Flats. I would love them even if they weren't a partner with us on the Knightline Sports Network. They have all kinds of great Tex-Mex food, and it's fresh, by the way. Made to order burritos, tacos, enchiladas, chimichangas, quesadillas, bowls, nachos, and taco salads. And if you haven't tried the queso, you are completely missing out. It is the best queso that I've ever had in my life. Absolutely hands down. And the sauce bar that they have, everything from wild to mild in there. Absolutely awesome, awesome stuff. Not only do I love the food at Tijuana Flats, but I love the company, a UCF-born company. And they give back to the community with the Justin Queso Foundation. So head to your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Welcome to the Tijuana Flats Hot Take of the Week. Visit TijuanaFlats.com for takeout or delivery, or visit your local Tijuana Flats. Tex-Mex for everyone. Alrighty, Roger, what is your Tijuana Flats hot take of the week?
Okay, so talking about that defensive line I was just gassing up, my Tijuana Flats hot take of the week is that the D-line will get 4 sacks against Boise State. Last year, they were averaging 2.54 sacks per game. I didn't think 3.5 sacks were hot enough, so I went with 4 because these are hot takes. But I think they get truly probably 3.5 to 4 sacks against Boise State.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll be good. I'm excited about that. I can't wait to see Big Cat. I think Big Cat's going to be a huge part of that. All right. My Tijuana Flats hot take of the week is that you will see at least 5 freshmen on the field. Not as starters, but maybe second in the rotations. In I don't know what positions. I'm not going to go that far, but I'm going to say at least 5 freshmen you will see play significant roles in the Boise game. So
that's exciting. If we've got 5 freshmen playing this year, that means we've got 5 really good players.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for. So hot takes are hot takes for a reason. They don't always have to be true, and they're not expected to be true half the time. So, yeah. That's it. All right. Back with news and notes.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. All right, congratulations to the UCF women's soccer team who opened the season by beating Texas 4-0. We're expecting big things from them this year.
All the Cows teams going down this year, so horns down, folks, horns down. The UCF programming team reached the World Finals again this year. It's one of the most successful programs in the world and has made the U.S. championships for 30 years straight. Congratulations to those guys.
You're talking about computer programming, correct?
Yes.
All right. As an update to last week's news, the Broncos have signed Adrian Killens after he was cut by the Eagles, the Denver Broncos, the evil, evil Denver Broncos. I will obviously be rooting for Adrian Killens, but that is all that I will be rooting for when it comes to the Denver Broncos. Arch enemies of my Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, that being said, check your inboxes as current season ticket holders received their basketball season ticket renewal emails. So, folks, basketball season's right around the corner. I know I renewed mine, so check your inboxes because it's that time of year again.
All righty. A guy whose name that I could not remember at the beginning of the show, Jacob Harris, is making waves in the preseason playing for the LA Rams. He led all receivers in the first game and caught a touchdown. LA seems to really like him. Congratulations to him. Looking for big things. He's been the surprise of the entire deal. So, all right, that's going to do it. Episode 260. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black